Let me ask you something that kept me up at night after I finished my MBA. Every country on Earth is in debt. The United States owes $36 trillion. Japan owes $9 trillion. China owes $14 trillion. Germany, France, the UK, all drowning in debt. But here's what broke my brain. If everyone owes money, who the hell is getting paid? Because that's how debt is supposed to work, right? Someone borrows, someone lends. You owe your credit card company. Your friend owes you $20. Simple. Except when I started digging into national debt, trying to figure out who actually holds the other end of the rope, I realized something that changed how I see money forever. The world doesn't owe money to anyone. It owes money to itself. And once you understand that, you'll never look at your own debt, your taxes, or your paycheck the same way again. So let's go back. Because national debt didn't start as some boring economic policy. It started as a survival hack during a war. England is fighting France and running out of gold. The king needs money now, but the treasury is empty. So he cuts a deal with a group of rich merchants. Lend me money today and I'll pay you interest forever, backed by future taxes. The merchants agree. And to manage this whole setup, they create the Bank of England. This was revolutionary. For the first time in history, a government could spend money it didn't have yet. And in return, the lenders got something they could trade, sell, or hold forever: a government bond. Think about that. A bond isn't just a loan. It's a promise that can be bought and sold like property. France copied it. The Netherlands perfected it. The United States used it to fund the revolution. Suddenly, empires didn't need to conquer land to get rich. They just needed people to believe in their promises. And that belief, that became the most valuable currency in the world. Here's what they don't teach you in school. Debt isn't a burden for governments. It's a tool, a weapon. The ability to borrow isn't a weakness. It's the ultimate sign of power. All right. Fast forward to today. The US owes $36 trillion. That number is so big, it's almost meaningless. But let's break it down, because this is where it gets weird. About half of that, $18 trillion, is publicly held. That means it's owed to actual investors: banks, pension funds, hedge funds, foreign governments. Now, here's the kicker. 2/3 of those investors are American. US banks, US retirement funds, US insurance companies. Even the Federal Reserve, which is technically part of the US government, holds a massive chunk. So when people say America is drowning in debt, what they really mean is America owes money to Americans. The other third, that's foreign investors. Japan holds about $1 trillion. China holds around $800 billion. Yeah, China. The country everyone thinks owns America. They hold less than 3% of US debt. But here's where my brain exploded when I first learned this. Japan lends to the US lends to Europe, Europe lends to developing countries, and those countries lend back to the US by buying treasury bonds. It's a circle, a closed loop. Everyone owes everyone. And the only reason it works is because everyone keeps playing. Now, here's the part that made me realize how deeply I'd been lied to. You and I, when we take out a loan, we are expected to pay it back. The principal, the whole thing. But governments, they never plan to pay it back. Not now, not ever. This isn't a conspiracy, it's literally the policy. Governments treat debt like a subscription service. When a bond matures, they don't pay it off, they issue a new bond to replace it. It's called refinancing, and it's been happening for decades. Japan's debt is over 250% of their GDP. They've been rolling it over since the 1990s, and their interest rates? Near zero. The US has been doing the same thing since World War II. Because here's the secret. Government debt is designed to be eternal. Why? Because the entire financial system depends on it. Pension funds hold government bonds as their safest asset. Banks use them as collateral. The Federal Reserve treats them like cash. If the US suddenly paid off all its debt tomorrow, the global economy would collapse because that debt is the foundation. It's not a bug, it's the system. Now, let's talk about who actually wins in this system, because when politicians say, "We owe it to ourselves," that's only half true. Interest payments on government debt don't go to everyone. They go to the people and institutions that hold the bonds: rich people, banks, hedge funds, foreign governments. Meanwhile, you, the taxpayer, you're funding those interest payments. Every year, the US government pays hundreds of billions in interest alone, not paying down the debt, just rent on money that already exists. And where does that money come from? Your paycheck, your taxes. So here's the reality. Debt is a transfer system from workers to wealth holders. This is why inequality and national debt rise together. It's not a coincidence. The system rewards people who own debt, and it punishes people who just pay it. That's the game. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So why hasn't this whole thing imploded? One word: confidence. As long as investors believe governments will keep paying interest, even if they never pay back the principal, the machine keeps running. But the moment that confidence cracks, game over. We've seen it before. Greece, 2010, their debt became unpayable. Bondholders panicked, interest rates spiked. The EU and IMF stepped in, but their rescue came with brutal austerity. Pensions slashed, unemployment skyrocketed. Argentina, they've defaulted 9 times. Each time, the same cycle: borrow, collapse, restructure, repeat. Sri Lanka, Venezuela, Lebanon. When confidence breaks, the creditors suddenly become very visible. The IMF, the rating agencies, the faceless bondholders who can destroy a country overnight. But here's the thing: even after collapse, the system just resets. New loans replace old ones, the debt gets a new name, and the machine starts again. Because in the 21st century, debt isn't a problem to solve, it's the operating system. Here's the part that changed everything for me. Every dollar in your wallet, every number in your bank account, it's debt. Not metaphorically, literally. When the Federal Reserve creates money, it doesn't print it out of thin air. It buys government bonds. The government gets cash, the Fed gets an IOU. That cash enters the economy. You get paid, you spend it, it circulates. But that dollar was born as debt, and somewhere on a balance sheet, it's still recorded as someone's liability. There is no such thing as debt-free money. This blew my mind when I finally understood it, because I'd spent years thinking money was this neutral thing, just a tool for trade. But it's not. Money is a promise, and promises can be broken. That's why central banks exist, not to manage the economy, but to manage belief. As long as people believe the promise will hold true, the system works. But belief is fragile. So what happens when the music stops, when governments can't borrow anymore because no one believes the promise will hold? Honestly, I don't know. And neither does anyone else. Some people think we'll see massive inflation, money becoming worthless as governments print more to service debt. Others think we'll see deflation, a collapse in credit, a freeze in the system, a depression. Maybe we'll see a new system entirely: digital currencies, debt jubilees, a global reset. But here's what I do know. The people at the top, the ones who understand this game, they're not worried about paying off debt. They're positioning themselves to profit when the system shifts. And if you're still playing by the old rules, work hard, save money, retire at 65, you're going to get crushed. So here's where we are. Every country is in debt. The creditor is everyone and no one. The system runs on confidence, not math. And the people who benefit most are the ones who understand that debt isn't something you escape, it's something you learn to use. I didn't learn this in my MBA. I learned it by losing money, getting angry, and refusing to accept the lies I'd been told. If you want to understand how money really works, not the sanitized version, but the raw, uncomfortable truth, stick around, because I'm done playing the game they sold us. I'm learning the real rules, and I'm bringing you with me. Subscribe if you are ready to wake up.